English language is one of the biggest challenges facing a newcomer. Canadian government has not forgotten this challenging and has found solution to it by establishing special programs to teach immigrants the English language. Red River College is one of the most important education center in Winnipeg to teach newcomers English language skills that help them integrate into Canadian society. In this episode from Civic Platform, we will talk about the history of the Red River College, the college programs, and its role in helping newcomers. Let's get started. Hello, Angela. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Sahar. How are you?
Welcome to Civic Platform. I'm very glad to have you on my show. And Anna as well. Welcome to Civic Platform.
Hello.
So let's begin with you, Angela. Can you please introduce yourself? Who are you and what are you doing?
Hi, Sahar. I'm Angela Chotka, and I'm here as the Director of English Language Learning and Newcomer Pathway Initiatives at Red River College Polytechnic.
Mm-hmm. Anna, also now, who are you and what are you doing?
So my name is Anna Yannick Kelly, and I am a program manager responsible for strategic analysis and special initiatives at Red River College Polytechnic Language Training Center.
Thank you for both of you. It's for the newcomer or for the new immigrant, they face a lot of challenging through the English language, and sometimes they don't know where to start, which level they are, and how they can improve their English if they want to continue to study in the college or just they need it for employment. So the Red River College opened the doors for immigrants and a newcomer to start learning their second language. So Angela, can you tell me when Red River College start to give English classes for immigrants and newcomer?
It's quite a long history, actually. That's 34 years ago that Red River
great.
College, started offering English language learning for newcomers. And it used to be located in the main train station, in the Via Rail train station in Winnipeg, right across from the Hotel Fort Garry. I don't know if you know it, but yes, that's where
I was there.
You were there. Oh, yeah. I didn't know. Okay. So you're familiar with familiar with language learning. Okay, there we go.
Okay. And Anna, if I want to be a student in Red River College, what should I do? How I can start?
So if you want to study English at Red River College Polytechnic, your first step as a newcomer would be to visit WELARC. And at WELARC, you will receive a placement test. So they will kind of try to figure out how well you communicate in English already. And then they will send those results to us with your permission. And based on those results, we will get connected. We will get introduced. You will take on our onboarding course. And then we will place you in a class that matches your schedule, your language level, and hopefully also your other goals.
And Angela, if I want to ask you about WELARC, I know it's like a different organization, but maybe you have like a general idea how these people, like they said, this person like in level 2, 3, or 4, 5, or 7, 8. There is like there is like a rules to put, because sometimes maybe I remember sometimes in Red River College they said like this is the assessment what you have and you have to be in that level. So sometimes it should like it's like accurate, sometimes not. So how that works?
So actually, Zuhair, I used to be an assessor And so when you're a certified language assessor, like the assessors at WellArc, you're trained to be an assessor. There is an organization called the Center for Canadian Language, Canadian Center for Language Benchmarks, sorry, CCLB. And this is the organization, after lots of research, has been responsible for identifying what listening, speaking, reading, and writing look like at all of these different stages. So we have two stages, stage 1 and stage 2. And in fact, there's a third stage, but we'll stick with stage 1 and stage 2. And there are 4 language benchmark levels in each of those stages. So for each of those levels, when you are assessing someone, so if I'm listening to someone speak, for instance, I'm listening for certain grammatical structures, I'm listening for certain, there's a whole bunch of indicators that tell you and help you understand where someone will be for each of the language skills. So reading, writing, listening, speaking. And that's why you can have a different benchmark, right, in the different skills.
Yeah. If I continue with you, Angela, and just a follow-up question. So there is some newcomer, they said, like my speaking, sometimes it's like a higher than my writing. So it's not make sense to give that student, like for example, 5 in speaking and like a 2 in writing, right? It should be like a close for the level, like a 3, 4, or there is different assessment for this kind of student.
Well, I can use myself as an example. If I think about myself with either Spanish or French, for instance, I bet my speaking would probably be around a 4. My reading is probably more like a 6. And that's because it's often easier to learn to read in another language, right? But it's not as easy to produce something, to write it or to speak it. So we can have a big variation between our benchmarks. Often they are somewhat similar, but sometimes there's big variations.
I see. Anna, if you tell me, like, the student start in Red River College from which level? Like, there is some students start from level 3, or that will be in a different organization. Which level they start and what they learn in each level?
I think it depends where you are. We have some regional classes that have students at level 2 and teach literacy. In the Winnipeg Center, most of our students start at about benchmark 3, 4, and can continue up to 9, sometimes even higher, depending on the class. So what we're trying to do at Red River College Polytechnic is to not just teach English and levels. We try to teach our students strategies to communicate in English in Canada. And some students might need this for workplace. Some students might need this to just be social with other people. Some might need it for just citizenship. So it really depends on the student. We have over 600 students, and some have similar goals and some have very different goals. So depending on where the student is at, what the student wants, we try to give them the language and any other information that will help them navigate and hopefully reach their goals as well.
Okay. Angela, if the student in level 5, 6, for example, and he should be moved to 6, 7, what should he achieve in that level to be eligible to move to the second level? This is very confusing question, because when I was in the college, and I still, many of students don't understand what they should do to be eligible to move. And sometimes they stuck in one level for like a year or more.
So I would say that many students are confused because it actually can be kind of confusing. Instead of having tests which lots of us, that might be what we were used to, how we learned and so on. With the benchmarks, we have something called artifacts. And these are things that show that you can use a particular skill or something like that. So you have to collect a certain number of artifacts to show that you can confidently or regularly use something. And then once you've achieved that, then you can move on to you're still looking confused. Should I ask Anna if she can explain that maybe a bit better?
Yeah, you can.
Essentially, we look for evidence, right? When we teach English, we're trying to provide students with opportunities to practice English a lot. And sometimes it's various contexts that test the same skill. So, for example, if I were to ask a question like, tell me about yourself, if you are supposed to talk about yourself in a social environment, it might look different than if you're talking in a professional environment, right? But there are certain things that at different levels can be expected. So we would be looking for the amount of detail, for grammatical accuracy, for how easy is it, like pronunciation, the type of vocabulary you use, whether you use more complex structures or not so complex structures. Do you connect your ideas? So we look at how you use language, what kind of language you use, and how effective are you in doing so. So from my experience also as a teacher, as a language assessor, some levels seem to be more difficult to move through. And that might also depend on the student, right, and what they want. So I don't want to generalize, but there are much more complex skills as we go higher and higher, right? And those are skills that require more and more practice and more exposure in order to master, really.
So when I was a student, I believe I need at least 3 assessment in each skills. I'm achieving the higher level. What I am, for example, if I am in 6, 7, I have to achieve 7 for at least I have like a 3 skill using and 3 assessment. And it will be the minimum. It's how accurate is that? Anna, please.
Based on the research provided by the Center for Canadian Language Benchmarks, this is deemed accurate.
Okay, great. So, and there is like a power for the instructor to give like a level higher for the student who believe, even if the student don't have like a full assessment, like if he has like a 2 and he know this student can with his English he's good and he can do well in the next, there is any opportunity to give that power to the teacher to move that student, or the student should have this artifacts?
No, the teachers do have that power. So it depends where a student comes from, right? The assessment that's given at WellArc is not designed to be a comprehensive, high stakes assessment. It's like you're somewhere around here, right? Usually when the student gets placed in a class and the teacher observes that the student is well beyond what the rest of the class is doing, or way below, the teacher would have a conversation with an academic coordinator or program manager to say, like, this is what I'm doing with my students, and this student has no trouble performing. I feel we should move them. So this is possible.
Oh.
And I should add also that all of the instructors who teach English have been trained in assessment or doing those kinds of assessments that are required as part of the language teaching initiatives in Canada.
Wonderful.
And they also have resources. So when they're unsure, they can connect with colleagues, they can connect with quality assurance people and say, like, I'm not sure. So this happens. We like to have the interest of our students at the forefront, but we also have to be ethical when it comes to performing our professions.
Thank you very much. Angela, after the student achieve maybe like a 2.8 or like a 2.7, for example, or he achieve all 8. After that, Red River College opened the opportunity for the student to join, I believe, 6 programs after that, if they like. So can you tell me more about these programs and how the student will, how they get that process to join that programs for their future?
So if students, after they have done their English language training and they have gotten, as you said, 8s, they can apply to a number of different programs at the college. I think what I would highlight, though, is something called course-based registration, which is something that allows people to just take 1 or 2 or 3 different courses. And we see a lot of the learners at the Language Training Center are people who have education and experience in their field from their home country. And being able to take pieces that may help them get back into their field in Canada or learn specific things like specific rules or practices related to their field in Canada, they can sometimes get those by just taking certain courses and not having to take an entire program. The other thing that I would mention is that we have English for Specific Purposes courses. And these are courses that are really transitioning from sort of general language study into much more sector-specific or industry-specific language and intercultural communication. So I think Anna mentioned something a little bit earlier about how we try to work on strategies for communicating and so on. So there's sort of the language that we use and that we know.
The jargon.
Sorry?
It's professional jargon, essentially.
Yeah, and when we think about the intercultural piece, it's so for instance, I can remember teaching a class where we talked about how many different ways there are to identify when people are saying no without using the word no. And this is a really culturally informed thing. So if people don't necessarily read that in the workplace or in their industry, they may be thinking that people are supporting that idea and so on. So our English for Specific Purposes courses really work on some of those intercultural and the language that is, as Anna just put, about professional jargon or the language that's used in those professions.
Yeah. Anna, if we go back to the class when you was like a teacher before, the newcomers specifically and the immigrants, they face some challenging in the classroom. So as a teacher, what is the most challenging for the student, and how you help them to develop and just pass it? So if that's like maybe in the speaking, pronunciation, their writing, what from your experience, what they face?
So I think you can divide it in so many different ways and answer this question in many different ways. When we look at a student, the students are also, mothers, fathers, brothers, children, their employees. They have so many different roles in their life, right? And sometimes what happens in the classroom may not necessarily be just language related. It might also be related to their private lives. But when thinking about just language specific maybe challenges, Sometimes it might depend on the language that the student comes from. So certain students might have trouble with particular sounds because they don't exist in their first language. They might have trouble with certain structures or grammatical pieces because they don't exist in their language. So I'm originally from Poland. In Poland, we are very lucky. We don't have any articles. So learning how to use articles, I kind of had to give up because for every rule there was 100 exceptions, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to start using them, and I will either be right or I'm going to be wrong, and people will just have to figure it out and ask me for clarification. So when I was teaching English, and I was lucky enough to be teaching in a writing center where I had the chance to speak to students one-on-one and talk to them provide them with feedback on their writing or speaking, I would be able to address those particular issues with additional homework or more centered, more focused exercises.
Angela, I just want to follow up with still in the classroom. Some students they think and use this the words exactly based on their mother language. So they think in their mother language, and when they start speaking, it not make any sense in English. This is what I face. This is a personal things, and everyone who start learn new language, the way how he start, he think exactly how he speak in his first language and use that words, and sometimes it not make any sense. So how you solve this problem for the student and give them some specific advices to pass this challenge?
That is a really big challenge. It's I think part of it is when you get to a certain level and you understand enough about the structure and so on so if you have a background or can understand about the language structure, then you can start learning how it works. So I think back to when I lived in Japan and trying to learn Japanese, and the structure was completely different, right? The grammatical structure, exactly what you're saying. So even though I knew the certain words, if I was going to put them in the order that I would for English, it didn't make any sense for Japanese people. So after a while, after I think you get more confident, after you learn more about that structure, you can start using the new language not as closely related to your home language or your mother language, like you were saying, right? It becomes something that is more independent. And I mean, you are living it in a different way. And so, even Anna, I think part of it is just time. I think that's a huge part of it. Practice. Yes.
And exposure. Yeah.
Yeah. So immersion is another thing. Hearing it, like when you're hearing it around you, you actually take that in and start internalizing some of that structure too.
Yeah. We practice 2 years now, online classes during the Corona pandemic. How it was, and I believe in winter we will be back to the camps, right? So tell me about that period, how it looks like, and how we have we can say we success on it, or 50-50, how it looks like, Anna?
It was just the transition during COVID was, I think, scary and extremely stressful for everyone. For all of the program staff, for all of the instructors, and all of the students. We were not ready. No one expected this. And so it was a huge amount of problem solving, finding resources, solutions, and learning. I used to refer to this essentially as a teaching revolution and learning revolution, because we were so comfortable, just going to a classroom, meeting our students, everyone was there, and we interact in person. It's what we're used to. And suddenly all of that is taken away. Your classroom is taken away. Your gestures are taken away. Students might not hear you as well because they need internet, and that might not be that good. So it was a revolution really in teaching, and we still have so much to learn, but we can manage, we can still deliver and ensure that our students can still learn.
Yeah. Angela, how the Red River College now ready to go back to the camps? The student accept the idea or not yet? And they will be in like a new building, right?
It will be in a new building. Manitowoc Bidazage is our new home. Yes, and Anna has it there in her background. It's an absolutely stunning space.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful space. And we look forward to welcoming many students here. We are, many of us are back on campus now, and we're making that transition and planning to be back on regularly like we used to be in the fall. So come the end of August, when our next term starts, that's when we'll be back on site. You asked how students are taking it, and like everything, there's a mix, right? Some people are very, very excited. Some people are more apprehensive. For some people, the flexibility associated with being online has been really good. So for instance, if they've got children and they need more flexibility, or if their work schedule made it difficult to travel. So for some people, the online or what will become, I think, more of a blended approach is going to be really helpful for a number of reasons. We've been starting to have some events where students can come back on site. We had one last week. We called it a meetup. I have to say that I think we had about 100 students on site, and people were just so excited to be around each other, to be talking in person, to be able to see gestures and share space together and so on. You could just feel the energy of people being really excited to be back. So
the time is very running fast. I have just one last question, and I'm sorry if I take your time too much.
Angela, if you want to hop off, then I can finish up.
Yeah. So, Anna, your final advice for the student, what your advice to them to be participate in winter term, how the building is safe, and maybe they have some fears about like any illnesses or any viruses in the camps, maybe they will accept it. So your final advice to them.
My final advice would be to just focus on their own goals, right? And take advantage of any opportunity that arises. Do not be limited by any fear of or reluctance to do anything. Just take things in, try things out. When it comes to health and safety, Red River College Polytechnic actually has a whole department of professionals whose job it is to ensure health and safety of students, staff, and visitors. And we are happy to share anything with the students. We actually share this all the time. The rules about mask wearing, sanitizing, distancing, this is still all in place, and our classrooms and spaces are prepared, cleaned regularly, and maintained with that student, staff, and visitor safety in mind.
Thank you very much. Angela, do you have anything you want to add in the end of this episode?
No, thank you very much for inviting us to here. It was wonderful to meet you, and I hope we see you on campus.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, both of you, Angela and Anna, for being with me in my show, Civic Platform. I wish you have a great day and successful life and we will see you in the cabs.
Likewise.
Have a good one.
Nice to see you, and thank you for
Bye.
having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's really difficult to master a language other than your own language very quickly. But with practice and hard work, and learning especially, and with more patience, you will reach your goals in the end. So if you don't join any language education program yet, my advice to you to take the opportunity and don't waste your time, because mastering English language in Canada will change your life for the bright side. Thank you for watching. If you like the episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to see our upcoming episodes.